now the Hippie Stomper, which is infinitely more fun to tie.
It's also a good South Fork fly. My best day on the South Fork ever, many years ago, 15 to 20, was with one of those things, and I got, I think, around 20, 25 big browns.
Was anybody there to see?
Yep. The guide.
So we'll need to talk to that person, Bill. All right, so for this fly, I'm using red and black. This is razor foam. So the red foam is 0.05 and the black is 1 millimeter. So you can tell that the black's a little thicker. So I'm going to cut this, the gap of the hook. So for this fly, I'm going to use it's a size 10 hook, but it's 2x short. So it's really got the shaft length of maybe a 12. So the smallest that I've personally ever tied a Hippie Stomper was a size 16, which is pretty small, and I've tied them all the way up to an 8. So I'm going to cut my foam pretty thin, and I'm going to hold them together and cut them both at the same time. All right. So same thing on this fly. I'm going to start my thread about an eye length back. So with foam flies, I always like to do a full layer of thread. Foam slides around bad enough as it is. Okay, so for a tail, I've got some Ken Burkholder Boise moose mane. I'm going to cut out about 10 fibers probably, somewhere around there. Clean it out really good. If anybody's looking for a good hair stacker, these are CNF. They got a little tungsten bead in the bottom, and they also have 2 sleeves, one for smaller clumps and one for larger. They're a little spendy, but you know, that doesn't matter, right? And with moose, I can just pull it right out of the end there. All right, so I want my tail to be a shaft length long, and you know, most of you guys probably know I don't usually measure tails. I tie them in and then pull them to length, but moose doesn't pull. So you kind of got to tie it in where you want it. So I'll put it on the side, 2 wraps brings it right up on top, and then I'll go ahead and tie my butts down, and I'm going to tie my butts down right to the halfway point of the hook. So right about there. That's where the first joint in my body is going to be. Flatten out my thread, get all this cleaned up. I'll probably do one more wrap back there. And then bring my thread right here to the halfway point. So I'm going to tie in my my foam, and I'm going to tie it in. You probably, if you work at this long enough, you could probably tie both of these in at the same time, but it's a little harder to keep them straight. So I'm going to just put a little point on my black, catch the tip, and then compress it all the way back, get it right to where my tail is. Okay, bring the thread back forward. Then I'll take my red, so I'll tie these in olive and black and then put the royal body underneath. I'll just use green peacock ice dubbing and red ice dubbing to form the royal coloration. And I also tie them in purple and black. This seems.
Are you using the gap the hook for the measurement of the?
Yes. Yep. Okay, so now I need to do the underbody, and traditionally this fly was tied with red tinsel. And this is Semperfli's flat braid in red, holographic red. It's a little more fun to play with than tinsel. Bring my thread back up. So I don't really want to be economical with my thread wraps because I'm going back and forward a lot because I want to build up a little bit of girth here. Okay, and then I'll wrap my red flat braid. That's saying in, yeah. Tie it off. Okay. So now I'm going to bring my red foam over first. Try to keep it nice and uniform. Okay, and then I can check, make sure the bottom looks good. And I'll bring over my black right up on top. And check underneath. Okay. So now I got to create a platform to wrap everything else in. So what I'll do is I'll bring my thread right up to about an eye length back from the eye, because I got to give myself room to whip finish. I'm going to cut both pieces of foam down, tie them in right there, and then this area I'm going to flatten out. And then leave my thread right in the center. Make sure my head is straight. Okay, and so now I'm going to put, these are just barred brown legs. Okay, so I'm going to tie these legs in a little different. I'm going to put, on my side of the hook, I'm going to put the leg on going backwards, and I'm going to get it about the length that I think I'm going to want. It's out of my thread. Come on. No, it is staticky, isn't it? So I'm going to do one wrap right in the middle, two wraps, and then I'll bring this leg around, again, just kind of measuring the length of the back leg only. And I'll come around and do, threads jumping. Come on, stand up there. And do 1, 2 tight wraps. And then this front piece, I'll just cut. So that gives me my 4 legs. And now I need to wrap these to the back of that platform and then to the front. Okay, and then I'll bring my thread back to the center. Okay, and now I'll put in a wing. I got plenty of wing material left here. Okay. This leg's a little straighter. And then I'll wrap the wing to the back. And then wrap it to the front. Okay, and this back wing I'll go ahead and cut. I like these to be about the length of the body. So about right there. Okay, and now I need to put in a hackle. And I can measure my hackle. I want it to be right about the gap of the hook. That one's a little bit long. This one will probably be good. I'm going to tie it in by the butt. I'll strip it down. I'm going to tie it in with the stem right up here at the front and then work my way back between all these legs. And I'll bring my thread back to the front. Okay, and I want the shiny side to go forward. So you can see how this hackle's starting to try to turn on me. If I take my scissors and come in here and bend it right at the stem, now it's wrapping straight. So that's another reason why you want to leave a little bit of stem on your tie-in, because then you can make your hackle behave. Okay, and I want to wrap this whole thing full. 1, 2, 3 turns. And then at this point, I like to go ahead and bring my thread forward. So I'm a little tight on my eye there. Okay, so and that one's going to be tough to whip finish, so I can use the half hitch tool. Go ahead and just go right over the eye. That's 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, so now the head on this fly needs to be the same length as the body. So I'm not going to come and trim it in close to the eye of the hook. So it's actually got a pretty big head on it. Looks about right. And then this wing, some people say this wing should be twice as long as the head. You know, and obviously the wing is just for you, so that'll work. And now I need to get my legs together. And on this fly, unlike the last one, I like the legs to be a lot shorter. So I'm just going to pull them down and cut them just a little longer than the hook gap. Make sure they're set right. And so the guy that ties this fly, his name is Anthony Guerrillo, and what he says to do at this point is to come in and cut all this hackle off. And, you know, I've done that on some and I've not done it on some. Sometimes I think they fish better with this hackle sticking down in the water. But you know what, if it's not catching fish, you can cut the hackle off on the boat. And so I like to just leave them on and then decide later on if you know, it would make it lay a little flatter in the water, but for some reason I think that this, you know, maybe gives the impression of legs or something. So, but just know if you're going to tie them exactly the way they're supposed to be tied, you're supposed to come in and cut all that off flush. So anyway, that's it. That's the Hippie Stomper and the Purple Chubby.